Good morning, good afternoon, colleagues. Thank you very much for joining us. Sorry for the slight delay from our side. Um, we will be just giving 30 seconds for all the participants to settle down so that we can proceed smoothly. And we appreciate your patience on this as well. Great. I think we have more or less reached to the level of saturation to our participation of this call today. Once again, welcome to all. My name is Nusari Khan. I'm the Director of Global Advocacy at ICLE Local Governments for Sustainability. And this webinar series is prepared by ICLE in its capacity as the focal point of the local governments and municipal authorities constituency. Uh, for those who are new, this is a cycle of webinars monthly held in two time zones in every third Wednesdays in order to serve both Eastern and Western hemispheres. We record the discussions and make the recordings available on our YouTube channel. During the call, we have certain participants or partners or guests. And we recommend our participants to stay tuned for the entirety of the presentation and then intervene if needed based on their inputs. But if there are any burning questions, you can also type in your chat box. Today's agenda is consisting of some basic background for keep us all of us on the same page about the legacy and history of the LGMA and our relation with the COP29 presidency. We are tracking what has been achieved since the last webinar, which was covering last week of July and 3 weeks of August. We will hear we are planning to hear from our colleague from Leah from UN Habitat on the progress of the efforts. But she was with us in the morning. I'm not sure whether she is joining us in the afternoon though. If not, I can briefly refer to it. And we will also touch upon which will be the basics of today's discussion, especially on the LGMA joint messages. And we will conclude with our review of 100 days to COP29 and a very brief update on the biodiversity COP16 in Colombia. But I also would like to acknowledge today we are joined by a distinguished friend and a colleague, Malini Mehra. She is the CEO of Globe International and who are the similar role with ICLE in the parliamentarians constituency at the UNFCCC. Particularly, Malini is also an active member of the LGMA constituency because she's leading the London Climate Action Week planning. And in the presentation, you will hear when we go through our August updates, will be informing you about the inaugural Baku Climate Action Week. And we requested Malina to join us because they have been instrumental in this remarkable achievement and move. So we will invite her to intervene on the background and the vision for the Baku Climate Action Week. But of course, Malini is also joining us in the rest of the LGMA agenda as well. So with this, let's speed up in our discussions. In a nutshell, we are the voice of subnationals, which is encompassing towns, cities, regions, metropolitan government, state government, in all sizes in all countries. In the UNFCCC process since '95, we have been in the 1992 when the decision and the agreement was achieved in Rio in the COP1 since COP1 in '95 in Berlin. We are the first one of the first three constituencies. So we contribute into the negotiation agendas by our statements, interventions. We support the high-level climate action champions and Marrakesh Partnership in setting the action agenda. We support the presidencies in their planning and delivery of the Conference of Parties. And we also connect to our friends of multi-level action, the countries who are friendly in promoting multi-level action and urbanization inside their countries, but also in the UNFCCC agendas. Our usual mechanism is that we have these webinars monthly. We also have our monthly bulletins that captures all our progress. We have mailing channels and we have WhatsApp group. As of today, I think we have exceeded around 50, we're close to 60, 65, I guess, in terms of number of networks who are accredited to the UNFCCC under the LGMA, but we are also serving to a broader constituency. Even though they are not accredited to UNFCCC, we are able to connect to them via this channel that you see here and engage them as appropriate in our delegations as well. We are recognizing Dubai as a remarkable milestone, and the first phase of the Paris Agreement conclusion and the second phase starting actually. In that regard, we are discussing the previous 30 years or so in four phases. The first couple of years was the negotiation and adoption of the convention. At that time, we recognized our constituency, but in the implementation during these couple of years, the first 10 years, let's say, we were relatively out of the game because there was no recognition on the UNFCCC and Kyoto Protocol. Starting from the entry into force of Kyoto Protocol and the discussions for a new roadmap to be concluded in Copenhagen, we started a more ambitious advocacy agenda, which was aiming to make sure recognition, engagement, and empowerment of local and regional governments. Because of the Copenhagen failure, we have revised our strategy, but we never give up. And this was the moment that is the third phase until the Paris Agreement. We elevated our engagement more and more, knowing that multilateralism is key for local action as well. And you have seen numerous initiatives. Our engagement with Paris Agreement is a remarkable era. Since then, especially towards the Glasgow, Sharm el-Sheikh, and Dubai, we have elevated with new initiatives, new mechanisms, and that strengthened our efforts. And the concept of multi-level was enshrined in the Glasgow Climate Pact, again in the preamble. In Sharm el-Sheikh, we had managed to get the urbanization much more closer to the table, and in Dubai, we had the one paragraph 161, which is urging parties for multi-level action, as well as remarkable champ initiative, which is an important tool for us to deliver all our goals. As you see from Dubai, we have now decisions and so many references in the consensus. There's a troika. We are hoping to get connected to troika, and the initiatives like Champ, one of them, and one of the numerous Dubai outcomes. We recognize as this ambitious, inclusive, and multi-level space. And when we look at back the local climate action summit, the urban climate ministerials, we as LGMA played a huge role in bridging these processes, especially also with our in-person presence through our multi-level action and urbanization pavilion as the bridging to the negotiations agenda. So the initiatives of the presidency, the initiatives that is running inside and outside process, but also now feeding into the negotiations is exactly what LGM is committed to. So this picture you see is we are trying to update this every month because there are new information coming up. It's a regular practice that the country who hosted the previous COP starts to hand over to the incoming presidency, starting from the June Bonn conference in the middle of the year. That has happened in the case of Emirates and Azerbaijan. But of course, because of the troika, there is a different mechanism going on, which is unique in this situation until COP30 with Brazil. What is new in this structure? We have been engaged with the presidency's team that is written in black here since Copenhagen ministerial, Berlin, Petersburg dialogue, and Bonn, numerous occasions with high-level champions. And in our last webinar, we are very delighted to also had a direct one-on-one conversation with Elmar Mamadov, the initiative's co-lead, and Shahryar Hajiev. On the right-hand corner is the update. We have two local leaders in the advisory board of COP29 presidency, Maimuna Sharif and Joseph Belmonte. The update is that Maimuna Sharif, who is a former mayor from Seberang Prime, Malaysia, and who is a former executive director of UN Habitat, she's a passionate leader of local action. And since last week, she's also assigned or appointed as the mayor of Kuala Lumpur, the first female mayor of Kuala Lumpur. We assume her role in the advisory board will continue, even though she's the current mayor, similar to Quezon City Mayor. And we congratulate once again Maimuna Sharif, and she was even joining the last International Advisory Board meeting in early August. our engagement is the year-round engagement that we are following. Let's remember, this mapping is on three levels. One is the global agendas, G7, G20, or other initiatives. The blue one is the UN and UNFCCC. There are also processes outside UNFCCC we are tracking, especially this is the year of three COPs. And of course, LGMA initiatives, Belém Summit, Sao Paulo Urban Summit, Daring Cities, Urban 7, Urban 20 Mayor Summit, and Action Weeks in New York, London, as we have discussed. So these are the type of events where the way we are engaged are different in each of them. Sometimes we are the host, in most cases we are the guest, and sometimes we abide by the UN rules, and sometimes we follow the host of the leading government. But this is the complexity and diversity of our engagement. Throughout this agenda, this year especially, our flagship is the implementation of the CHAMP initiative. We are glad that in Bonn there was already a CHAMP section in our LGMA website, which keeps all the updates and all the documentation. There is also the first endorsers roundtable held in Bonn in during the Daring Cities and UNFCCC talk. So the CHAMP agenda is moving. A number of processes are evolving, and we are looking forward to the further implementation that will bring results to Baku in COP29. One of the things that is evolved, that is evolving since June, when we see the atmosphere, we have approached to the national associations of local governments, in particular knowing that CHAMP is a national-driven process. And we had the privilege and advantage of a number of leaders who are active in the COP process, who have been familiar with us, and they had been involved in their national associations as well. This was the case with the mayor of Bonn. She has led, as the vice president of her Association of German Cities. The idea is that to encourage national associations to adopt resolutions that focuses on three topics. One, to commend their national governments that they commit for a CHAMP initiative, then express readiness to collaborate, to start dialogue and consultations, and thirdly, to alert their members, the local and regional governments, so that they also step up their efforts. That was the whole purpose of these resolutions. And we are glad that a different diversity and different scope has been applied in all these three resolutions from Germany, Brazil National Front of Mayors, and US Congress of Mayors. But the essence, this three element has been kept the same. One thing that we also have evolved over these years is that we have CHAMP for the national governments, national associations are also encouraging this, but it's also at the end of the day and the hands of the local regional governments, individual administrations are their leaders and their communication with their communities. So we have built on the stocktake experience since last year, and taking into account the new mechanics of Emirates outcome or UAE consensus, and invite them to turn this experience into a more regular town hall COP, in the sense that from now on, they not only focus on their own commitment, but also discuss where they are fitting into the national process, how they can contribute to the new climate plans, the NDC 3.0s, and how they can be reflected to the global efforts in the COPs in a more structured manner. So the town hall COPs is something that we want to embed into this new era of multi-level action. And we will make more progress on that, hopefully, with experiences coming ahead. So since July, we know, especially in the northern hemisphere, August is a relatively calm period, mainly because the government officers are relatively closed and people are taking their mid-year break. So we were not expecting too many actions. What we have seen, first of all, Daring Cities Virtual Forum has kicked off, starting from the end of July, and the first session was on CHAMP and the Town Hall COP. So we had heard from Environment Committee Chair of US Conference of Mayors, Mayor Buffalo from Colombia, also Mayor of Bonn's message was communicated. Then we heard feedbacks from Turku, Bristol, and Rosario, so that we advance on these discussions. And their Daring Cities, the mobilization for climate emergency of urban leaders is going on with virtual forums every week. So we encourage you to join that. An important agenda came up is that the IPCC, after the conclusion of the 61st plenary in Sofia in July, officially now circulated in a call to accredited observers of IPCC, national governments and observer organizations to nominate the authors, lead authors, drafting authors, and reviewers for the upcoming special report on climate change in cities. This is, of course, very special for us because it was something that we really fought for since 2016 in Nairobi. So now it's coming to a new level. Now it's the real work starting. We are aware nominations has to be carefully thought through because it's not just an event. You really have to dedicate your time, capacity, and this needs dedication and even a secondment of your existing employment institutions. Obviously, we're not only focusing on scientists, but especially urban practitioners. This could be sustainability managers, climate managers, or deputy mayors, or even mayors. We have seen in the case of Claudia Sheinbaum, who was Environment Secretary of Mexico City, who was an IPCC author. She became a mayor, and now she's the president of Mexico. And similarly, we have some mayors who have been a scientist or scholar in their universities and now have been leading their countries, their cities or regions. So we are even trying to make sure such personalities can even be engaged in such processes. And more information is on the way, but the process is open. The national governments are compiling their list. We as LGMA partners, including C40 and ICLEI, have the right to communicate such nominations, and we will get back to you. There are certain discussions among our urban networks so that we nominate the most skilled and appropriate colleagues into the process. And today's one of the flagship events is that we alerted in the mailing list last week, or even this beginning of this week, probably. But Malini knows better. The inaugural Baku Climate Action Week. Malini, I hope you are still with us. We will be delighted to hear your efforts on how to convince the Azerbaijan officials and the Baku officials how you are making the connection from London Climate Week. And we will be delighted to support you. And again, once again, congratulations on your achievement on that.
Hi there. Good afternoon. Can you see me and hear me? Okay.
Well.
Yes, fantastic. Thank you so much. I have been listening, but I'm also multitasking. There's quite a lot which is going on right now. As you know, we've got a very short runway for Baku Climate Action Week, so it's in around 40 days' time. And yeah, I mean, we're absolutely delighted. We hadn't expected that this is what we would be doing for much of our August. But the background to this, since you asked about the background and the vision, and most importantly, how we can get the LGMA constituency involved in this, is that every year we've been running the increasingly successful London Climate Action Weeks. And it's quite a different concept because the focus is on action at multiple levels. And this is the largest now whole of society mobilization climate change event across a week. And so London has set the model for a number of similar efforts across the world in Sydney, Auckland, Dubai, etc. So I was out in Baku earlier this year and had an opportunity to experience the city, which is extremely modern and beautiful and prosperous, and was struck by how different it was to what most people's perceptions are who haven't actually been there. And so in speaking with the high-level champion and the leadership team, invited them to come to London Climate Action Week and spend some time with us, because that really allows them to engage with such a range of experts and stakeholders from many different communities. So to cut a long story short, they did that. They were effectively embedded with us, organized many events. So the high-level champions team was very active throughout the week, but we also had the various other, intergovernmental, but also the COP presidency related initiatives. The Mission 25 was there, but we had Race to Resilience, Race to Zero, etc. A number of the actors that you know very well who were there during the week. So I think it was a really steep learning curve for the high-level champion, and it was perceived to be extremely valuable. So shortly thereafter, in reflection on what we could do with them to prepare the ground, prepare the foundations for an effective COP, there was an idea that there should be a Baku Climate Action Week. So we were invited to partner, and I was invited to help curate the week. So it was relatively short notice, but things are coming together very quickly. So in the spirit of how we organize things at London Climate Action Week, yes, there are a few flagship events. So in terms of the main themes, we have a high-level conference which will be covering the principal themes. Of course, we can't cover everything. So the principal themes, you won't be surprised to learn, are the energy transition. Of course, for Azerbaijan, this is an opportunity for the country and for the city to show how serious they are about the green transition, about all the efforts which are currently underway in the country, all of the partnerships which are there. But importantly, this is an opportunity for them to showcase what is happening and to invite partnership and collaboration. So that is the spirit of the approach to all of the themes, but energy transition is one of the main ones. Then we have a big focus on the built environment, looking at what are the transformations that need to take place. So as I mentioned, Baku is an extremely modern city. It would not look out of place in Western Europe, for example. There's a very vibrant youth culture, cafe culture, people promenade, with their families on the seafronts. So it's a very pleasant city. But still, they have quite a job to do in terms of making sure that all of the buildings are sustainable, that everything in terms of their master plan is now going to be Paris compliant. So this is the new push with the city leadership, which is to make sure that they're inviting partners who can help them in the transformation agenda for the city itself. So we'll have a big focus on smart cities, everything that entails from new technologies, including AI, to new platforms, tools, skills, capacity building, and of course, importantly, finance. So this will be a big theme for day one. And then, of course, we have the other big themes, which are around water, addressing the water challenges in the region. And that would, of course, water is something that has to be dealt not just in isolation, but in regional context. So you'll understand that very much from where you are in Turkey, Yunus. And then, of course, there's the issue around food security, agriculture. So these are some of the big ticket themes that we have. There are a number of others which are being added. So I'll give you an example of which of the other ones which are being added, which kind of deepen the understanding about the challenges of the transition. So one of them is that we have decided to have a big focus on super pollutants, because so far there's been a big focus naturally on CO2 emissions reductions, emissions abatements, but we've got all of the other greenhouse gases like methane, and so we have a big focus on methane. What's happening, what can happen now to accelerate the reduction of methane emissions. So there was, of course, a methane partnership, which was launched at Glasgow. But since COP28, we've got the adoption of the Oil and Gas Decarbonisation Charter. So there's a lot which is happening within the oil and gas industry. So there'll be an opportunity to look to provide updates and provide case studies. And Azerbaijan will wish to share its example of what's happening in terms of abatement of methane and then other super pollutants. So there's the involvement of the Climate and Clean Air Coalition. So many other partners are now involved, UNEP, the World Bank, etc. The other aspects are really around the green economy. So making sure that skills and capacity building for the transition are also being addressed, that they are being financed. So what's the agenda there for the government, the public sector, the private sector, employers, and also, of course, education providers, universities, schools, etc. So that's something that we're working in partnership with the key universities, including the ADA University, Azerbaijan's largest university, which is Baku State University. And that's something I think there's a real opportunity to collaborate with the university networks, which are already being developed, universities for net zero, etc. So there's a lot to do in terms of raising awareness and creating confidence within the domestic population about the necessity and the feasibility of a green transition which produces benefits for all. And equally, there's an opportunity for creating those links with international partners. So what's the offer for local governments? Yunus, you and I were speaking several months back when we were looking to prepare our respective constituencies. So parliamentary constituency for my side, yours is a local government constituency, but how could we engage them with local governments in Azerbaijan? So now we have it. We have the mayor of Baku, who has a slightly different role as the mayor than other mayors in different parts of the world. But of course, every country is different in terms of the role, the powers, the authority, the place of mayors and the structure of local governments. So now we have an opportunity to engage with them. So I would encourage colleagues, on the call and those who are members of the LGMA constituency to think creatively about what you would like to do. So whether, of course, we would very much welcome in-person participation, because the idea is not to experience the city virtually, but to be there in person. And to be there at the time, so the September is a very pleasant time, I understand from all accounts. It's a really great time to be in Baku, and there's going to be a lot on offer. So this is the time to come, experience the city, and make the connections, develop the understanding, and create the relationships. Because then one can go into COP29, for example, with more clearer ideas about how one can engage on the presidency's own action agenda. For example, on the multi-sectoral actions partnership, which is focused on sustainable, healthy, and resilient cities. So that's an immediate point of convergence. But if we begin to do all of this at COP29 itself, when the focus is really going to be on, the negotiations, the official agenda, then I think the chances of delivery in terms of collaborative partnerships are much less than if one gets involved much earlier on. And that's the purpose of Baku Climate Action Week. So we will be having further information shared. We have a preliminary agenda that I'd be happy to share with you. We will be going live, I think, next week with a website which helps the visitor understand how they can take part. So there will be, as I said, more information which is forthcoming. But please do use me as the entry point if you wish to engage further. Invitations have been sent to mayors. That the invitation has been sent to the mayor of Bonn. We would love to see her in her capacity, not just as the Lord Mayor of Bonn, but also the role that she plays at Hickley. So I'm happy to bring it to a close now and hand back to you, Jonas. I'm happy to take any questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Malini, for this background. I think the importance of this thing is that we discussed since the beginning of the year. The regional climate weeks are cancelled due to lack of resources, and we are aware there is this NDC 3.0 fora in several parts of the world, but our access is not too much very clear or engagement. I think this kind of diversification of this kind of interactions, especially in the host city and host country, is very, very valuable. Yes, it's short notice, but I think this is life. From our side, I know it is exactly overlapping with the ICLEI's European Sustainable Cities and Towns Congress. But as I said, we will check and we encourage other participants, especially probably this meeting in Baku may also open doors for the participants to learn more about the Central Asia. Baku is really the gateway for the rest of Central Asia. So I think it's an important point, especially knowing that Azerbaijan is a number of, and Baku has been engaged in a number of initiatives, but it could have been much more potential in initiatives, global efforts. So this is an opportunity for that. And this is a segue actually to the next point, because as you said, in the morning, Leah from Beyond Habitat was mentioning how the presidency of Azerbaijan is putting an emphasis on urbanization. This is the 20th of November in the calendar now, and the declaration, the multi-sectoral action partnership for sustainable cities, has, according to what we heard from Leah, has received more than 300 feedbacks, inputs to this draft as of 15th of July, which is again a signal of commitment and motivation. We were in touch with Elmar Mamadov and Shahriyar Hajiev about how they would like to evolve this. We are assuming that together with UN Habitat, the COP29 president will soon release a revised draft. Obviously, the Baku Climate Action Week is immediately after the New York City Climate Action Week. That could also again be a challenge for some of the participants, so that those who travel to New York may not be available in Baku. But I think it is also a good, probably in this Baku meeting, there will be also a discussion on how this could support CHAMP. Azerbaijan is also to CHAMP, and they would like to make sure the initiatives will also feed with the previous initiatives, but also on the way to Belem. So this is good that the presidencies are working with us, with the constituency, and good to see the synergy to the extent possible within the limitations of this time zone and multiple agendas ahead of us. We will convey additional information from Malini and look forward to more engagement. Malini, maybe you were saying that there may be side events for those who wish, probably, but this could be part of the additional information that may come up in addition to the official agenda, as far as I know.
Yeah, no, indeed. I mean, there are, in terms of the official agenda, there's a lot which is going on. So parties are coming to us and saying that they wish to, organize panels, etc. So we are, we're helping support those where there is a very good fit with the week. So I would encourage those, from the LGMA constituency who have particular ideas that they would like to advance.
Yeah.
That please send me those ideas. We really don't have the bandwidth to organize everything for people, but in the spirit of how we organize things in London Climate Action Week, we are, we're happy to consider ideas, proposals, and then see how we can support, make sure that they have a role on the agenda during the week.
Excellent, excellent. So let's proceed with our agenda. This into account, which is the next agenda is our LGMA joint messaging for COP29. Those who remember, we have assigned or appointed a drafting committee on a voluntary basis. They've worked on the several documents. This will be aiming to replicate the success of the COP28 joint messages, which was well received, which helped us a lot in our engagement. It was announced at the beginning of COP. That was a good background or also the placeholder for many of our interventions. And it was also good for our leaders to be familiar with what they're expecting and what they ask for in such a meeting. We said that it could focus on three main elements, and the discussions now evolved that we have 10 main paragraphs or sentences. Each of them have a further description or explanatory note about the background. The document is still up for comments from the LGMA constituency. What we see now, according to the feedbacks we received so far, the good news is that they have no red line or concern expressed. The whole inputs we received so far is how to make the structure and the how these messages will be received by different audience. And in that sense, we discussed in the morning with my colleague Ariel Dekovic, who is leading ICLE's communications communications program, but also leading our the LGMA communications group as well. That she has shared some ideas what could be the options. She's not joining us today in the morning, but I'm seeing many of the members of the drafting committee with us. If you wish, you can intervene. There are, for example, the initial readout, there was probably a proposal that, for example, number 3, 4, 5 seems to be combined in one sentence, or we are still discussing the first paragraph, which is asking for a delivery of commitments, but also reflecting what are we doing on CHAMP and how are we integrating ourselves. So there may be some I forgot this sentence, this word in the morning session, is that repositioning of these paragraphs in a neat and concise manner. What we are suggesting is that the call was open until 25th of August. We can expect drafting committee to meet early in the morning or early in the beginning of this month, this week, next week, and that we can come up with our proposals. The idea is that as early as possible in September, beginning of September, this will be open for endorsement, and we are checking with our colleagues from the climate group under 2 coalition how we can make sure we could announce the first endorsers in the climate week, New York City Climate Week. I'm happy that Ariel just joined us. Don't think that that's her email address. It's me, but she's using our own channels. Ariel, the floor is yours. How do you see this current structure, and what will be your recommendation on the way forward?
Great. Yes. Thanks. Yeah. Sorry about the login confusion here. Yeah. So first off, again, many congrats and thanks to those who drafted these joint messages. They're, as I said this morning, such a critical ingredient of our joint advocacy work, and really is just going to make my life and the life of my comms colleagues that much better and easier and more effective. So again, thanks for this wonderful contribution, everyone. My main kind of next step, I think, for the joint messages is, as Eunice indicated, to do some of the work around thinking through who the other primary audiences are that we're speaking to with these joint messages. So I think we've done an excellent job here of really speaking the language of negotiators, of those who are helping to draft outcomes and other parts of the official work of COP. But there are other primary target audiences that we'll have to consider as we release these and try to have them find their way not only into the official language, but also into our advocates, our spokespeople's interventions in a way that where they can sort of understand what our main asks are. So I think that for me is like the biggest kind of piece of work still left to do, but certainly very doable in the time frame that we have. And I think we'll just sort of strengthen the piece to make it that much more kind of accessible for that audience. And then other, of course, joining audiences like media and other folks who are kind of adjacent to our constituency.
Great. Thanks, Ariel. I see a couple of colleagues in this call who have been involved in the drafting process. Casimir, Ula, Teresa, Heloise, feel free, those whom I couldn't even read all the names, but don't, if there's any points that you'd like to address at this stage. There was one point that I mentioned in the morning. Eva from CMR was also in the call. We have seen her proposal to replace subnational governments with regional governments. I told her in the call as that we know terminology semantics is complex in the UN, let's say, space. Each process has a different background and legacy, and the history of how these discussions came up. In the climate space, our basic understanding is that in the Paris Agreement, it is recognized as cities and other subnational authorities, whereas we have subnational governments in the biodiversity. So we try to stick to this local and subnational governments as much as possible, as appropriate. Therefore, we would like to stick to this, knowing that there is this other mechanisms where the global task force is announced as local and regional government. So this does not differentiate or deviate us. And I recommend that we focus on our substance rather than this discussion, that we use our resources and time and energy more efficiently. I hope this would be acceptable by all. If I don't see any contribution from our colleagues, we can continue, and they can come in also if needed in the Q&A section as well. Maybe I can go through this now. The last 100 days, LGMA's last 100 days. Obviously, every process and every institution has their own 100 days. We will continue Daring Cities Forum. I really recommend you to connect. These are virtual sessions every week, and it is really discussing different elements of what it means to act on climate emergency at the local and subnational level, and how urban leaders are taking the lead on knowing more, acting better, and leading together. So I think this is helping us also to feed into the messages towards COP every year as well. Regional NDC forums, as we said, we are seeing that the meetings are being scheduled, and some of the LGMA representatives are invited on an ad hoc basis. I must confess, we are not very happy with the way these forums are engaging with our constituency. We have not received the right mechanics that we have wished for, but we still hopeful that there will be active engagement. The first one was in Asia Pacific. It's already gone. The others are coming in the next couple of weeks, Latin America, Europe, and others. We have an important webinar on the 4th of September. CHAMP, the Global Covenant of Mayors, is convening a CHAMP webinar that is explaining what's going on in this space. I think it's a nice opportunity to hear what we have achieved so far. The nominations for IPCC special report authors is finishing on the 20th of September. So we have less than a month to go forward. There is a number of UNFCCC workshops and negotiation sessions upcoming. I must confess, because of our own business of CHAMP and positioning, we have slightly ignored or we did not show the right attention to this part of the space. And I will get back to this so that we can make sure we are prominently visible in all these sessions. One of the most important one is in Cairo, Sharm el Sheikh Mitigation Work Program in October, which is focusing on urban environment. We are aiming to make sure we are visible and active in the third meeting of Loss and Damage Fund board in Baku in September, because for the moment, the engagement structure does not include LGMA, which is some concern for us. In Montreal, we will have Innovate for Cities. We will have New York City Agenda, Summit of the Future, and CHAMP endorsers, high-level political dialogue, and numerous other announcements. European colleagues will be in Aalborg for their Sustainable Cities and Towns. This is a good opportunity to influence the upcoming commission and commissioners. Baku Climate Action Week we discussed. There is a pre-COP, which is the negotiations in Baku in mid-October. There will be Colombia Biodiversity COP. G20 will meet for the first time. I think environment and finance ministers will be meeting together. We hope to have more town hall COPs, especially those who are engaged in the CHAMP implementation countries. We are following the G7 Urban Ministerial. We are assuming the Urban 7 will have a seat, but we are also acknowledging that this year, G7 countries collectively are spending most of their time and energy to their domestic issues, from UK, France, Japan, Italy, US, European Union. All the G7 countries are either prepared for an election or just coming out of an election, and they're rediscussing their government. This means that G7's influence in the global arena is relatively weaker this year. But we'll still do our best to elevate our power of engagement in the G7 countries. The examples of Germany and US associations, Deutsche Städte and US Congress of Mayors in the implementation of CHAMP is one of those good practices that we'd like to promote. There will be a Cairo World Urban Forum which is not a negotiation as such, but a great opportunity to elevate urban in the global profile. When the COP starts, we will have our LGMA press conference to release our statement. We are hoping that our pavilion will be announced soon together with UN Habitat. We are almost ready to confirm that we will have again a space, but being aware of the logistical challenges, financial challenges in Baku, there may be some changes also in the way interactivities because of the reliance on the availability of financial resources. But we are hopeful that there will be diversity of partners supporting this process. We know, especially in the second week of COP, we have the G20 and Urban 20, but we still hope there will be a message coming from Rio to the Urbanization Day on the COP29 on the 20th of November. And after COP is concluded, we will still follow up in Riyadh, the desertification COP. And this last slide is a reminder from our biodiversity colleagues that the subnational summit is taking place on the 25th and 27th of October. They have already started registrations. There is blue zone, green zone engagements. There are certain differences, and the city of Cali is also convening a number of initiatives. But we would like to make sure the summit in the blue zone is the culmination of our efforts, and especially knowing Colombia is a very, very powerful and committed and ambitious country in the UNFCCC, the climate space. Together with Minister of Environment, Susana Mohammed, we are very, very delighted to see her leadership on divestment and bringing nature, peace. So outcome from Cali will definitely provide feed into the COP, including a significant progress on the urban nature commitment that was announced in Dubai. We know Razan Mubarak will be joining Cali COP. Let's hope that she can join us in our summit as well. And our colleagues in the biodiversity community are convening their Road to Cali webinar next Wednesday, and we will circulate their links as well, so those who are interested can join us as well. With this, I think we have come to the end of our slides. We still have 15 minutes. I see Malini on the line. I'm not sure whether there's any additional points you would like to raise, but this time it's also the opportunity for our participants to share any updates from their side or any points that we have missed or that they have to underline in their interventions. The floor is open. You can raise your hand, and we can give you the floor. If not, we can always cut the session short so that we can make better use of our times, especially on a humanitarian basis. Many of us are still continuing our virtual or in-person meetings as well. Teresa from Committee of the Regions. Yes, Teresa, the floor is yours.
Hi, Yunus. Good to see you on the screen. I have missed some webinars lately, and I was wondering if you could tell us a bit about the MAP initiative that the presidency is working on. I think you discussed it in the morning, but if you can just say a few paragraphs and then to see if you have contributed to it or in which extent we have
Teresa,
influence it.
Thanks for bringing this back. What we know so far, first of all, we have actually we have discussed this only in the last webinar in July. That was the moment when the document was circulated. We also supported the online feedbacks. Leah said that they received 300 feedbacks or entries into the document that you have seen in the drafting version. We have been contributing also in the initial phases and during the consultations or during the input phases. We have let the LGMA constituency to provide their inputs directly to the document. What we have been observing is that there are numerous initiatives or topics that has not been touched in the past in this document. That is very welcoming. There is also this discussion to bring parliamentarians on board. This is particularly important for Malini. With the parliamentarian constituency, I think there will be a lot of opportunities. This is what we have been asking for, the multi-level space, and the Baku declaration or initiative is giving this opportunity. We were noticing that the most important was the last 3 paragraphs. According to what report came from Leah, is that the language is a bit softened and it is more inclusive, and it's mostly encouraging the partners to especially elevate the climate finance issue and make sure that those initiatives are appropriately synergized. Other than that, they are about to circulate another version, probably in the next couple of days. We are aware COP29 presidents will also try to convene some meetings in New York City during the climate week. So we may also receive more updates on that. From our side, what we have seen so far, we do not have anything that will make us uncomfortable, and we are very happy that these new points are introduced. These new elements are on the table now, and hopefully this message will help us to deliver multi-level action at home and make sure the way towards Belém that we are even stronger with such initiatives. Let's remember, urbanization is one of the first time we had in the past, and during the COP thematic days, we have Cities Day, we have Multi-Level Action Day, but I think urbanization is coming for the first time such as prominently, so that's good, so that it's the opportunity that this declaration can bridge Surge, CHAMP, the other process that we're working on. So let's see how it will evolve. That's what we know so far. And when in case we receive any updates, we will share obviously immediately.
Great, thank you, Yunus.
Malini, I see your hand. Please go ahead.
Yeah, thank you, Yunus. I just wanted to add also a couple of points on this. Like yourself, I mean, we were delighted to see the inclusion of members of parliament in this particular initiative, which is one of the 14 initiatives. We're calling it the 14 Action Agenda for the presidency. And I had an opportunity to discuss this also with Elmar Bey. I know that he was on your last webinar. And so we also emphasize that we see this as really pioneering, where there is an effort to build on the multi-level action agenda, which has been set by previous presidencies, by engaging legislators, and that we encouraged him to see how we could work with him to ensure their engagement with the other 13 action agenda items. So that was the first point. And I think they're quite open. They are really looking at how they can help bring a much more coherent institutional approach to the urban agenda. So this is one of the ways. The second point is just to follow up on what you said about the pavilion. So I am, pleased to be able to share with colleagues here. We haven't made a formal announcement as yet widely, but we can share that there will be a parliamentary pavilion at COP29. It will be the same size as it was last year, which is 50 square meters. We had hoped for a larger one because of the success of last year's pavilion, but there is such a struggle for space. There are more applicants than there is actually the ability to support their proposals. So, and I am just still hoping that we will be able to have our pavilion side by side with yours once you are able to, finalize that, because that means that we will have even stronger partnership between our two constituencies, given the overlap that there is. So that's just what I wanted to share with you for now. Back to you. Thank you.
Definitely, Melanie, and congratulations for securing the space. I know it was not an easy game, and it's still work in progress. That's why I am where you're also cautious. Indeed, I think that's again one of the opportunities since the beginning of the year when we had heard Nigar Arpaderay, the first time a parliamentarian being a champion. You see that here are how it can resonate in our work, and we were together with her. Now these are the types of things that we can see the benefit of working together. So let's hope this will help us to advance further. And we also look forward to our announcement on the pavilion. There are still some issues. One of the things that we are seeing this year is really partners who are struggling with finances. Even the UNFC Secretariat resources are seriously scarce. But I'm sure we will reach the workable solution at the end. And it would be good indeed to stay together so that our constituencies can get closer to each other. So promising preparations. So let's see how it will evolve in the coming days. And we will, of course, keep each other involved. From our side, for the LGMA pavilion, we already have reached out the basic information to previous partners who have hosted sessions in our pavilion. But we are also encouraging any other partners, especially in the South, especially in the global South and Asia, to be more active, knowing some challenges from other parts, especially this overlap with G20 is slightly limiting our abilities. Therefore, I think we are expecting COP in Dubai, in Baku will be successful, even in the sense that it will be bringing new actors, new partners from the same constituencies, that we will diversify, as we discussed before. Central Asia, Caucasus is a region which has not been so much active in the action agenda so far for a variety of reasons. But we look forward to Baku making a change in that, and that this change comes in every activity we are engaged with. So let's see how we'll advance along these lines. I'm looking at our chat boxes so far. Not very any critical message as far as I can see.
No, all good.
Perfect, Kata. Thanks a lot.
No worries.
So with this, I'd like to announce that our session is closed and wish you all a fruitful day and night ahead, and look forward to staying in touch and our next webinar in July, in September. And in between, we will be keeping each other about our mailings, bulletins, and more updates in that along these lines. Take care and bye-bye.
Thank you, Yunus. Thank you, everyone.